never hit me demons.
Okay.
There's just there's a lot of junk in it, but I can see that if it hits the the right cards, it's probably one of the most potent decks in the metagame right now. It just doesn't hit those as often as you'd like in a tier 1 tournament deck. So we shall see.
So going back to this OTK Demon Hunter that Fr0zen's playing, for me this is important for Fr0zen. I think Fr0zen sometimes struggles to enjoy decks. He's played a lot of Hearthstone, he's very good at it, but if he doesn't enjoy the deck, he can sort of switch off. But I get the impression he loves this deck. This is very Fr0zen-like, so give him the chance to master something like this. Like you said, he played it very well last week. He's going to be pretty terrifying, maybe for the whole season on this particular deck.
Yeah, he's been playing it since pre-expansion / set rotation, so definitely a big fan of it.
Looking at these openers, Fr0zen obviously can just kill anything that Impact makes for a while, but Impact can't make anything. What a horrible start.
Yep. You do need to have some sort of pressure early. A lot of the power does come from just straight up like big bursts of board presence in the mid game. That's like the part where Demon Hunter struggles. They can pick apart early game boards. It's when you go for big bursts of pressure in the mid game that they kind of crumble. So even though it doesn't get the greatest start, has some chance to make up for it. It's just, I mean, with this sequence of draws, it's going to be tough. No Libram reduction, no minions, no first day of school, nothing. Just not much going for him at the moment.
I feel like this should happen with Paladin way more often than it does. Like you get all these buffs, and you get all these minions, and you get these utility cards. Shuffle it all together, and expect to go minion buff utility card just like that. And I'm amazed at how often this doesn't happen, where you just draw, no minions or no buffs or no utility. It's amazingly consistent for a deck with so much going on.
Reporting for duty.
Well, at least he gets the hero power.
I mean, this was the thing that made Paladin good about 5 years ago, was that hero power was nice and you could put your buffs on the hero power guaranteed. But my goodness, have times changed. 2 mana is basically miss your turn these days in the early game.
Yep. Game is actually quite fast-paced. Has been for quite some time, but finally picks up a minion. Sword of the Fallen as well, okay. And not really many secrets played, just the one Oh My Yogg so far. So we'll still get value out of this Sword of the Fallen. So that's at least something that can bridge the gap to mid-game. And Fr0zen himself looks like he's holding on to the second Illidari Studies to try and wait for 6 to discover a skull that's already outcast. All right, see, piecing it together right off the top. Even though you have these weak early hands, he's starting to get things going.
Yep, and the damage is going to start coming in pretty rapidly. It's so weird how quickly it changes. It turns out that a 4/6 taunt on turn 5 does a lot of work. Who knew? The engine that keeps this Paladin deck running, in my opinion. The Truth Seeker.
That was pretty unlikely to be Oh My Yogg. So that's pretty rough for Fr0zen, because he was banking on that to pick up some kind of card draw. Spectral Skull would have been the obvious hit. That's why he waited until 6 to play it, so he can play it the same turn. But Spectral Sight, Crimson Sigil Runner, anything to try and get him deeper to the natural skulls that are in his deck is what he was looking for.
And what you were saying looks like it might come to pass now. He's dealt with the early game by a unique method of Impact not having an early game on this occasion. But now Impact is just getting mid-sized stuff that is going to be... you're supposed to... The way you deal with this is you kill your opponent, because this stuff does not get dealt with.
No, it does not. Well, when you pass a turn completely as OTK Demon Hunter, you know things are going incredibly poorly. And that's another pass.
And the reason this deck is not that likely to have this, it's got so much card draw, so much efficient ways to just keep the cycle of card draw going. And when you miss it all, you just can't get it started. You're supposed to draw at least a Chaos Strike or something to get you started. But no.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. Really doesn't take much. He's trying to work out whether or not this is actually a clear, talented. He can go pretty much everything. Talented Arcanist, Ethereal Aug Merchant, Moarg. So if he Ethereal Aug Merchants off the... no, because it's not going to work out if it's Avenge, because he'll need to hero power.
I bet you can do this. I bet you can do this.
And, Impact. Knew that had to...
Oh, never mind. Wouldn't, because the... sorry, I counted 8 as the amount of damage.
Right.
But I was thinking... I don't know what I was thinking. Moarg or something? But Immolation Orb doubles up from spell damage because it deals X amount and then X amount again.
Yes.
This is not what we stood for.
But
So...
despite the fact he got the clear, I mean, Fr0zen has 2 Moargs. That's his hand. That's what he does now.
But a ton of card draw left in the deck. There's double Skull, double Spectral Sight, Blood Mage Soundless, Chaos Strike, double jump, 2 double jumps to pick up the Spectral Sights or the Skull. So is getting there, right? But now it's to the point where it's been so long. Impact's been able to develop the board freely, and I just don't know if Fr0zen's going to have time anymore. Needs Skull right now.
Yeah, Impact working it out. He's got himself up to, I think... Oh, it's not it's actually not 2-turn lethal because Penflinger doesn't do what Penflinger used to do.
Nope.
I think he's 1 short. But Paladin does 1 in a lot of ways, so Fr0zen can't afford this. He has got into that card draw, though.
Is he getting
so close?
close to
Fr0zen.
Is he getting close to killing?
Yeah,
Wait,
it's getting
what?
close. It's
So
ridiculous.
double Moarg without the Talented Arcanist is not that much for Fellscream Blast. But let's count with double Fellscream Blast. And so one thing about the way Impact's positioned here is that he's actually positioned incredibly well against Fellscream Blast. Each Fellscream Blast, if he can do it on non-divine shielded minions, would deal doubled up to 2, then doubled up to 4 times 3. That's 12. So each Fellscream Blast will deal 12, and then I-Beam would be doubled up to 6, then doubled up to 12. So he does have lethal. The problem is, can he get it done? Let's see. Can he get it done if the first one is 8? See, this is beautiful positioning from Impact, actually, spreading out the divine shields like this.
Yeah.
Because Fr0zen can't get a full Fellscream Blast target. So one of these Fellscream Blasts will only deal 8. So 8 plus 12 plus 12. That is lethal.
Yeah, and I don't think it mattered, but Impact pressing the hero power button there instinctively makes that positioning look slightly messy. It still works, obviously, but yeah, that was the intake of breath there.
At 1, right? So he goes double Moarg. So the first Fellscream Blast is only going to deal 8. Then the I-Beam will deal 12, so that's 20, and the second Fellscream Blast will deal 12, that's 32.
Impact shakes his head. He knows it's coming. He can't believe it.
Wow!
TJ, what just happened on that last Fr0zen turn? He had 2 Moargs, and then he had full combo.
That's insane. All right. I mean, OTK Demon Hunter, it's just the best deck in the game. What can I say? I do have to commend Impact, though, because not many players are going to go through the time to be like, I'm so far ahead. Like, there's no way the 6 cards in his hand are the exact 6 cards that he needs to beat me. Made sure that Fr0zen would not have a target for a 3 target for Fellscream Blast, which could have made the difference, right? If there's like no I-Beam there or something. That's can be a big difference makers in a lot of cases, because that cut Fr0zen's damage down by 4. Which, let's say he had just like 2 less damage, which breakpoints don't work out that way, but just, imagine with me for a moment, if you will. then he would have been 2 damage off lethal. So nicely done. But that opening start, he didn't put on enough pressure. Fr0zen had just enough time. And the clear with the Immolation Aura, every time I watch Fr0zen play this deck, I'm like, I would have just not been able to find the clear on the turn with the Immolation Aura and lost the game completely. Like,
yeah, and even if you find it, like, for me, at least, like, I'm not winning that game with 2 Mogs. I'm probably just conceding, and I don't concede much, but I'm looking at that going, well, like, even if I get my card draw, I'm dead next turn. But Impact missed 1 point of, he didn't miss it, but there was 1 point less than there could be on the board, which was enough. And Fr0zen had all 3 damage sources, as well as, I don't know, I'm blown away by the fact that Fr0zen won that game of Hearthstone, as you can probably tell.
Yeah, incredibly impressive. Fr0zen's one of those players where, he's actually been one of the best performers in America's Grandmasters. He just hasn't had that result, hasn't had that big result. In all-time win rate, I think he's 4th, right behind Luna, Eddie, and Monsanto. Fr0zen is a very close 4th in overall like all-time win rate. Had a couple early on, I believe in the Specialist era, dominated alongside Dog before he bowed out from Grandmasters. So, but he hasn't had like that big result. Hasn't had that World Championship appearance. Hasn't had like that finals appearance in Americas. Just kind of floated on the radar. But a lot of times when I watch him, if he's on form with decks, I learn something when I watch him, which is not the case for a lot of other players that play in the league. Maybe sometimes I learn something, but I learned what not to do.
Wow. But I understand,
Fr0zen,
yeah.
Fr0zen is one of those players that a lot of times I actually learned that something new about the deck or a cool little way to clear or how to set things up, and that's always a pleasure to watch. All right. Weird Warlock. That's what I'm going to call it.
Weird Warlock. And this is, again, typical Fr0zen, I want to do it this way, and I don't care what you tell me to do type of deck. It's just Warlock, but it's got some cards in that he likes that work for him. You say they weren't working for you when you got to test this out, but have a look if he can teach you something, or if you... What's he doing? He's Zoo? Sorry. He's Zoo now?
Yeah, so the Demonic Studies was like one of the weirder cards. The one thing it does is let you get Void Triggers down earlier because it makes your next demon cost less. And it also fills the gap of, the problem that we saw Language Hacker run into earlier, where he just didn't have minions to pressure decks that he really needed to pressure. But, like, there's a lot of garbage demons. Or demons that are so niche, and it's like, well, why would I ever play? It's like a Scrap Imp, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if you're offered 3 Scrap Imp-esque cards? What's your game plan? Like, what's your goal? Just throw something on the board. But again, like when it hits, ooh, mwah, chef's kiss, it hits. But when it doesn't hit, you're like, why did I put all this stuff in my deck?
I feel like it hit this time though. Like when you're forced to quick shot something when it's not the only card in your hand as Hunter, it feels like you've just like given up. You haven't, obviously, but it's just like, it hurts so much.
Well, I will say, long gone are the days where Face Hunter doesn't have staying power, right? This is one of the metas where we've actually called something Face Hunter, and it's a deck that has like this mid-range staying power. It's got like so much big, expensive burst cards later on in the game, like Warsong Wrangled Tundra Rhinos and Piercing Shots and Angry Mancrick. Those...
Barak, the 3-card draw man who draws your Angry Mancrick and puts it on the board.
Exactly, right? And refills your hand. It draws you 3 cards and summons a 3/10, ideally. Or draws you 2 cards, Both decent. Draws you 2 cards that are curated.
Dread-Eye's version of this deck for nearly a full day testing, and people are saying to me, well, why aren't you doing well with Hunter? And I'm like, I don't know. And that's because Dread-Eye's version doesn't have all of these good cards we just talked about. It does something a bit different, which doesn't quite fit the meta, in my opinion. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, the second you start adding in the cards you just talked about, Turns out a full day later, yeah, suddenly the deck starts winning because these cards are ridiculous.
Yes.
And like you say, a 7/6 isn't really a face card, is it? It hits you in the face because of its ability, but it's just a big thing.
And sometimes big things get there. Actually, a lot of times big things get there.
There's not that many big things in this meta right now, if that makes any sense. There's a lot of very small things, and there's a lot of things that finish the game.
Well, so there's the Void Jerker coming into play. I get what you mean slightly, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay. You think there's big things because they get buffed a lot. Anyway, here's a big thing, hitting somebody for 7, and there's another big thing that's going to hit for 5. These are the things I'm talking about.
Well, that's a medium-sized thing, Neil.
What's a big thing, TJ?
Jaraxxus are big. Void Drinkers are big. So
Triple
this looks way better than full-on removal control Warlock. But they're playing so fast, like I don't even have time to digest what's happening.
Yeah, I'm trying to have a conversation here, TJ, and the players just aren't allowing it. They're trying to like kill each other with Hearthstone cards.
Yeah, and to be fair, I'm glad they are because that's the point of all of this. But
yeah, it's going. So basically, Fr0zen is gaining health and killing things, and Impact is running out of cards. There you go. Surmised.
Yep. All right,
and he needed that
piercing shot off the top. Oh, okay, that's something.
Yeah.
Because if 1 mana spell, 2 mana spell, you can pair this with Kolkar Pack Runner to get going. And he gets Angry Man Crick. See, this is what I'm talking about with staying power. Like you're like, oh yes, they only have 2 cards left. I'm so far ahead, and then all of a sudden they just draw like the Wrangler off the top or Barrack and just wreck the board.
I'm wondering if this is going to end up being the opposite of the previous game. Like 2 pack runners left in his hand as opposed to 2 Moags, and the game looked over. And okay, obviously Fr0zen has a way to clear next turn, but I wonder if this ends up being the exact opposite of the previous game, where it looks like it was impossible.
I have no time for games.
Impact worrying more now about what he's doing next turn than what he's doing this turn in a lot of ways. Setting up to have a reload and a good quick shot. That's why he did it this way.
The big question here is whether or not to life tap. There are 3 soul fragments in the deck, so I don't think there's like enough critical mass of soul fragments to where your life tap's going to be free on average.
Yeah, and the fact you couldn't play the card that turn as well. You probably don't want to life tap twice more this game, so you might as well life tap next turn if you're going to do it. I think that would be his decision.
Yeah, but Fr0zen, Siphon Soul and School Spirits just staying alive. But he needs that definitive card that's gonna win him the game, like the Jaraxxus or Sociologist Militia. Even I guess not Ticketus now because it's not going to be.
I mean, what about Jaraxxus? It's a 10/10.
Okay.
On 13. Oh, okay.
No. You Jaraxxus now and then Jaraxxus for the lethal.
For the 3x.
Because that's a 2-turn lethal. So he's going to think about it. All right. That's Impact's deck.
Okay.
He's got Piercing Shot. I mean, a lot of this could be burst, right? Demon Companion can be burst. Rindling's Rifle can get Freezing Trap, which would interrupt the 2-turn lethal. Piercing Shot would be lethal. Hold on, let's look this up again. So
another look.
It would have to be a 2-card, or Piercing Shot would be 1. Other than that, it'd have to be a 2-card combo, right? Because he's got 4 damage showing, so he would need 5 extra. There's 1 card in hand, so it would have to be like Demon Companion into something, or I actually think it's only Piercing Shot or Rindling's Rifle that that don't let it, or Demon Companion with a buff plus Moon Prey. Nah, that wouldn't beat either. So honestly,
he might be cornered anyway. Like
yep, you do it.
Yeah, you might be cornered because if you kill these, or if you go the safe way now, what do you actually gain? You have to do it all again next turn anyway. And next turn, Impact's drawn more cards. So
yeah, he's got him.
Go for it.
Yep. You got him. The Wrangler, no beast left in the deck, as you just saw. And didn't draw the piercing shot, didn't draw Rindling's rifle to try and get that freezing trap in order to block that 2-turn lethal. And he's got to have some feeling that he's dead, or at least soul fragments are to come out. But that'll be the Jaraxxus lethal. Man, Jaraxxus played off the top for lethal. It's been many moons since I've seen that.
Yeah, we used to see that way too much. Now we see it just about the right amount. And honestly, the way that Fr0zen won that is that his deck was built to win that game sometimes. Like, compare that to what happened to Language Hacker earlier against the Druid. If Language Hacker had anything to play on, like turns 5 to 8, he'd probably been okay.
Yeah, true. More minions in the deck, more ways to fight for board in the early game instead of just relying on mass removal. It still was close, right? It still was incredibly close. Again, the staying power of Hunter these days is a lot more. Like, Impact, despite having everything be dealt with in the early game, and Fr0zen being like 28 health on turn 5 or 6, Impact was still a draw away from lethal, or at least a draw away from delaying himself dying and giving him more draws for lethal. So that's an incredibly close game, despite what seemed like a dominant early and mid game from Fr0zen. And that's the power of Face Hunter right now. But Fr0zen has a 2-0 lead right now, winning with the OTK Demon Hunter and Control Warlock. And now we're going to move into a Rogue mirror match, except I guess you can call it a mirror, but the decks are built incredibly differently. Impact with double Penflinger again.
Yeah. I mean, you had a day to make your choice, and he made his choice that the card will work. So it's not crazy to do it twice, if that makes sense. It's the decision he made was, I still think it's good, therefore it stays in all the decks. The other decision is take it out of all of them. If you start mixing and matching and, I don't know, hedging against yourself, it'd be like playing one in each deck or something. It'd be like, what are you doing? It's a lineup. He's made the call. Yeah. He thought on the day that they had to submit that Penflinger was the way forward instead of Yoink.
Yoink? Yeah. I like Fr0zen's list better, though Impact's is interesting. It's much more tempo-oriented, Impact's is, but it doesn't have that many more tempo tools than Fr0zen's does. It just it feels like it's more all-in on Efficient Octobot, almost. Mm-hmm. But Fr0zen's running the pretty, I'd say it's close to standard for what we're seeing from Miracle Rogues right now, with the Alexstrasza and the Tenwu of the Red Smoke, the double Guardian Ogmerchants for Cycle and Efficient Octobot activations. So we'll see.
I'm excited. I want to see Oil Rig Ambusher do its thing. I want to see how good this card is. I've seen Impact do this too many times to go down the route straight away. I remember there's a time when everyone was playing Zoo and nobody could find like a killer minion in it. So Impact, it was some sort of damage Zoo, and he just played Pit Lord and just got the damage on himself that way and put a 5/6 in his deck, and everything was just great.
Now you play it, and Face Hunter just piercing shots it and says, "Thanks for the 5 damage."
Yep.
Don't recommend it. It's not even standard, I'm pretty sure. Actually, that card may not even exist anymore. They may have just deleted it.
I think it may have changed, actually. I'll find out, because that's the sort of guy I am.
Well, never mind. There's a 4-mana 5/10 that deals 6 damage to itself. It's close, I guess.
That'll do.
All right. Let's see.
Seems to still be there. Right. Anyway,
none of these
yoinking.
are good in the matchup. Steady Shot may seem good, but Really, you want things that affect the board, things that draw you cards. You want the Mage Hero power, you want Warlock life tap, even Demon Hunter Hero power, even though it's less efficient. Totemic Call is not terrible.
Weirdly, the lesser heal wouldn't have been that terrible sometimes, but he doesn't have anything worth healing.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, in this situation, 1 mana for 4 damage is really good.
Yeah, it's fine.
So if you look at Yoink in a vacuum like that, like, oh, it's 1 mana, deal 4. Would you play that in your deck? Probably.
Well, people play Sinister Strike for sure.
Yeah.
Card we see. So they definitely would play Sinister Strike +1.
Yep. Impact is watching this match slip away before his very eyes.
The come on, get it over with symbol there. It's like, yeah, you've got loads of cards. Let's see them all. But he's going to get a go himself now. He can do quite a lot this turn. His 4 mana is going to go a long way in the mana shop. What he can buy? He can buy prizes and secrets, and there's a lot going on there.
Yep.
But then Kazakas is going to happen.
I was okay. I kind of wanted to swindle that turn.
Oh, because you trust your second swindle to be good enough, and the first one will be fine. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but this is also decent, right? It hits Foxy Fraud. The minions do have high impact. Hits Foxy Fraud and Swindle, and impact's just like, oh, geez. Kazakus don't have the board.
So I didn't see what he took, but Divine Shield was one option, and Copy This was another. And if he got those two, which I suspect he will have, ouch. So much damage.
Well, I mean, this is a pretty sick turn. Impact can go, wait. Excuse me? He could have gone Field Contact, Foxy Fraud, Swindle, Shadow Step the Foxy Fraud, play it again, Brain Freeze to clear off the Kazakus.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm not Impact. But I'm wondering if he wants to save all of this for next turn because he's scared of these Greater Golems. He knows they're going to be 5 costs. So he can do those things, take some damage now, and in return for taking damage now, has a good chance at prize plundering up a couple of 5/5s.
Alternatively, your opponent no longer has a 3/3, so unless they have Rush or Deal Damage Golems, which Fr0zen would be less likely to take since he had control of the board, you would have a 2/3/2s on the board versus a 1/3. One of those being a Field Contact, which is a must-kill minion. He would also still be able to do the prize plunder, clear off the board stuff next turn with Shadow Steps and whatnot. He would just have extra cards to do it with.
Counting, or not counting him, but adding to that again. He can do that now and get the cards this turn and trust his deck, which is something that I can see Impact being the sort of person to go for.
Fair enough.
Trying to get into the heads rather than necessarily say what I think is right or wrong. And I think he wants to do it all this turn. See by the speed he started the turn out that he is going, this is the turn he wants to go off. He's going for a monstrous turn for sure.
Give me that. Not what I
Hey, this is his swing turn. Is Fr0zen going to be able to reply to this? This is looking pretty reasonable. I mean, he's built a board, drawn his cards, and cleared his opponent's stuff. That's what Rogue does. The problem is your opponent tends to do it back to you.
Yep. Fr0zen doesn't have the tools in hand to be able to do that, but does have Secret Bed. Whoa!
Yeah, I was going to say I wonder if he'll do this, just because how he played previously. He is valuing doing, getting the swing turns twice in a row here. Because he's scared of these greater golems. Alright.
Alright, pen flinger.
Yeah, it's
Show me what
fine,
you
isn't
got. Oh man. Alright, this is the rest of the deck, right?
This is it. This is yeah, oil rig time.
Efficient is sufficient.
This is why, by the way.
Ulrich's not even. It's
not Alex
4 mana. Deal 2.
Initiation of overdrive.
This is, by the way, why you build your own decks based around good decks. Because depending on how you play the deck, matters which cards you've got in there for your way of playing the deck. Like Impact sort of decided he wants this all to be really cheap so he can trust his deck to do this sort of thing. But not everyone for sure would have played it this way in the first place.
Choose soon.
Give me that. Look what I want.
8 cards left. 7. You said it was the deck. You're not far off. Oh my. And he's still got a handful of stuff for next turn.
It's quiet. Too quiet.
DJ, was this insanity or was this amazing? The way he waited a turn.
I mean, he did all that fancy stuff, but because he lost the early game, he's just gonna die.
Yeah. Yeah, Frozen's just been collecting damage, right?
Yeah, but I mean, until turn 10, Frozen's not that close to lethal. He's got double Wicked Stab and Fireball, which is 14. Dagger Hit is 15. Even if he hits and re-daggers up, it's not setting up for a 2-turn. Now he's got a 0 mana Secret Passage,
So many options.
but that's his deck. I mean, I guess Foxy Fraud plus something, but really not hitting it. Okay, Octobot.
Alex. Oh.
Choose soon.
He just wants to keep the ball rolling here with card draw. Oh! Okay, more damage? Nope. Ice Barrier could
Barrier?
be decent.
Yeah.
Snap Freeze is more flexible. He's got to go. Play it. Pick whatever gives you burn. Burn, 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 burn. Fireball. Here, Entity. This is insane. Miracle Rogue mirrors are just...
It's a special breed of person who's really good at these.
Impact still
have to
seeing the
play
animations.
so differently to everybody else.
It's like, look at all this stuff he has in his hand. Yeah, but he's only got 8 mana. He can go Jandis, Foxy Fraud, SI.
And that's it. That's a turn. Yeah.
That's his turn. If he leaves 2 damage on the board, 3 damage. Ooh, if he leaves 2 damage on the board, did Fr0zen swing his dagger last turn? Not that he could ever know that there'd
No,
be.
he had 19. He had 19.
To make a wager, friend.
It would have been lethal, right? Because it'd be 2 plus 14, 16. No, it wouldn't have been. It would have been 1 off. Okay. Oh, yes! There it is. A big old deal, too.
Yeah, with a 4/4. What's not to like?
Choose soon.
Okay. So that's about 2 turns from now that Impact has lethal.
Oh! Okay, that's... Wait, no! Ah, you just daggered! He's 1 off!
15, yes, it's 1 off. And if he'd daggered last time, he'd have lethal. Because
Wait.
all of these things would just be pointed at the
Wait!
face like this.
Wait! You Wand Maker. Sinister Strike or Deadly Poison or Paralytic Poison is lethal.
Quiet.
Oh my, that's actually quite good odds.
Yoink is lethal a lot!
Does he say-
Right? Because Wand Maker
That's
2
what the
mana,
five
Fireball 4 mana, Wicked Stab. Yeah, there was enough. Did he hit a damage, Hero Power?
Picked too quickly for me to see, I'm afraid.
Alright. He never dies here, though.
to choose suicide.
right?
I don't know. I don't want to say never about
4,
anything
5,
the way this series has been going. He shouldn't be able to die, sure.
12, 15,
There's no Alex.
16.
What's Impact got left?
Let's take a look.
Have a look.
Wicked Stab. Oil Rig Ambusher.
Can he draw cards? He can with a Passage. So Passage into Stab ambushes are a lot of damage.
No,
He needs 14. He needs to generate 14 this turn, apart from what we can see.
he can't do it. It's impossible. 9 mana, Wicked Stab. If only Pen Flayers could go face. He still wouldn't have his boards full.
So many options.
Got a Wand Maker that can get him. No, it's not enough.
What about Jandis? Earth Elemental would stop lethal. A Taunt would stop lethal.
Trampling Rhino, does that do anything here? I mean, 3 is the answer to that question, but yeah.
Yeah, he does not have...
Use all of his mana.
And Impact is dead.
Choose suicide.
Another 3-0.
This card, and this card, all going here.
Beautiful.
You like that?
I did.
I'll probably leave it to you in future.
Well fought. Well played.
And Impact knows. He's seen the way it's been played the last couple of turns.
Yep.
$3-0?
Oh, wait. Oh, man. Okay, no, I was right. For some reason, at first I thought I was counting the Wicked Stabs as 6 damage. I was like, it's not lethal. But no, I was counting them as 4. It's because he was on turn 9. That could have been way more than lethal if it was just 1 mana higher. All right, Fr0zen, another 3-0 is going to move on to the top 8. And Impact, man, a rough week 1 for Impact. And now a relatively rough week 2. Because I honestly, like, looking back at his group this week, I guess he did take a 3-1 victory over Fr0zen to open the group. Probably bullying the Rogue or the Warlock. That's brutal to now come back and take a 3-0 loss. And very close to winning, too. He had lethal outs in every game but the Rogue game off the top. The Demon Hunter game, Fr0zen just drew a skull and then killed him the next turn by emptying his hand. So it is a little bit of a rough series, but holy moly. Outside of maybe some things I would have done differently in the Rogue